Hello! Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you are safe and doing well, and welcome back to another J-Fashion Mythbusters video where we dive deep into various J-Fashion styles with people who are a part of the global J-Fashion community. The last one that we did was on Visual Kei, and you can check out the rest of them in the playlist. Today's video is going to be all about Yume Kawaii. Kawaii. Kawaii? Kawaii. 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 Yume Kawaii. Yay! I've had Yume Kawaii requested by quite a number of people, and I found the two perfect friends to talk to about this dreamy pastel aesthetic. My lovely guests today are artists Hoshi Yumekawa and Yume Vampire, aka Jess. So let's go ahead and let them introduce themselves in today's interview. Hello! Hi!
Hi!
Hi! Okay, so if the both of you could give me a quick introduction about yourself, how you found out about J-Fashion and your style, when did you find out about it, and how long you've been into this whole world. Yeah, so whoever wants to go first, feel free to go right ahead.
We're both just going to stare at each other going, would you like to go first?
Just go fast!
Well, I'm Jess. I'm a demigirl from the UK. I've been into J-Fashion, I think, around 7 years now. I was introduced to it by a friend who, when we were in school together, she discovered Fairy Kei, and she created the Tumblr blog called Fairy Tips. You might be familiar with it. So I was introduced to things like Kyori, Milklim, everything like that through her. I started off with fashion quite boring, if I'm honest. I didn't really have a fashion style growing up. It was just whatever was comfortable. So when I discovered Fairy Kei, I started to add more pastels and anything cute that I could find into my wardrobe very slowly. And then from there, when I started to go to conventions like Hyper Japan, started to get a bit more out there with wearing more decorated outfits. And I'd say when Yumekawa became popular in 2015 is when I started to incorporate more dreaminess into my outfits. But yeah, that's my little journey.
Thank you. What about you, Hoshi?
Hi, I'm Hoshi. I am from the UK originally, but I'm currently living in Japan. As you can probably tell, I'm a VTuber.
Yay!
Wow. I have actually been wearing J-Fashion and I only just did the math for it, and this is going to be painful, but 15 years now.
Yay!
I started out with Lolita fashion. Actually, I started out with Visual Kei and then Oshare and then Lolita, and I've been through a few different ones. And I found out about Yumekawa, like 5 years ago. I was part of the Manhattan community at the time. I found out about Yumekawa through that, and I sort of graduated from Manhattan into Yumekawa as my worldview got a little bit brighter and a little bit more hopeful. Since moving to Japan, you can now find me regularly in Nile Perch buying everything that they have.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so cool though. You get to be there with Nile Perch and Spank and all the other really awesome Japanese pastel brands, but
it's a dream come true. Yeah.
Is your wallet okay?
No, it's not. It's really not.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, and you have lots of cute pastel things to share with everyone too. So let's go ahead and get started with the rest of the questions. So let's start with the first one, which is, what does Yume Kawaii or Yumekawa, as both of you have also said as well, what does the word itself mean?
Literally?
Yes.
Dreamy cute.
Dreamy cute.
So it combines the words yume, which is dream, and then kawaii, cute. Yeah. Hold on, I got my little notes as well. So the phrase was originally coined by a model called Amo, and she was very popular in the 2010s for like a pastel and an edgy kind of look. She's since moved on from the style, but she was quite a pioneer for young adolescents during that time. The name didn't really kick off, I would say, until 2015 when Ichigo Rinahamu said it in an interview to describe her style as well as her music style that she did with an artist called Nikamonkyu, I believe is how you say it.
Mm.
But their group was originally called BPM Ichigo-kyu. They were really cute. They don't... Oh, yes, they do. They do create songs nowadays. Rina Hamu did eventually go to Cyber, and now she's now back in with Nikamonkyu and creating music, which is lovely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was so happy when I heard that they are back together. Me personally, I've been a fan of Cybr for the whole time they've been together, and then I was really bummed when they disbanded, graduated. I don't know if which is the
same
right term.
here. Heartbreaking, but it's nice that she's still continuing on with her music as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I would add to that I guess, so when Rina Hamu talked about it, when was that, 2015?
Yeah, probably late 2015, early 2016.
Somewhere around then, wasn't it? She described it as being dreamy cute with like an edge of like darkness, like with an edge of like nightmare. But at some point from that point onwards, the word finally entered the mainstream, and it got, how do I describe this? In that way that all things do when they become mainstream, it got completely washed of anything dark and
It almost like evolved out of it.
Yeah, it got the Disneyfication, it got cleansed for mainstream consumption. And yeah, it's really taken off since then. It's everywhere now. It is absolutely everywhere now, and probably hardly recognizable from what Rina Hamu originally sort of was thinking when she said that to what it is now. I actually wonder what she thinks about how just everywhere and how sort of, I don't know, Disneyfied feels like the best word to describe it. It is now.
Sort of like going back to the meaning of Yumekawa. So we kind of talked about it a little bit when we were chatting before in the group chat and stuff, and talking about how it's not so much a fashion style, but more so an aesthetic. Is that correct? Like, is Yumekawa more not a fashion style? Yes?
I would say that's definitely like a misconception about Yumekawa, is that it's a specific type of style. But Yumekawa can be fashion, can be music, artwork, even you could even go as far as say food can be Yumekawa. It's just a feeling rather than a specific style. It's like I'm mainly wearing Fairy Kei, and that can be classed as Yumekawa, but not all Yumekawa outfits can be classed as Fairy Kei. There's just a certain dreamy feeling to the outfit.
If you imagine the word Yumekawa to be this umbrella term, if you imagine like a Venn diagram, Fairy Kei would be a circle entirely inside of Yumekawa. Like everything Fairy Kei 100% fits the definition of Yumekawa, but not everything that fits the definition of Yumekawa would be Fairy Kei. And obviously Fairy Kei has been around longer than Yumekawa as well. So like Yumekawa is just this beast that's come along and absorbed everything pastel and cutesy into it. And also because in Japanese, I've seen it referred to with a phrase that I can't exactly remember the Japanese, but the English translation would be worldview. So kind of like a philosophy of life, which sounds very hoity-toity, but it really just means that like it's a lifestyle thing. So like Yumekawa is a lifestyle. You want to eat cute foods, you want to wear cute clothes, you want to collect cute things. It's huge. It can cover every aspect of your life. Food is a really good example as well. There's a lot of foods that would be called insta buyer, so like foods that don't always taste good but would look good on Instagram. Lots of Yumekawa foods like that available here and stuff like that. Definitely.
I wonder if it would be considered like a subculture on top of being an aesthetic, since there are so many things involved in it. But
how would we define subculture?
I have no idea.
Because to me, subculture makes me think... I was looking
this up as well, whether it counted as a subculture. I'm not too sure.
I don't
know if it's different in Japan, Hoshi.
I feel like it's too mainstream for that at this point, because subculture makes me think like the Decora movement, like a group of young people out on the streets gathering together to do this very niche thing. But Yumekawa is very mainstream. And if it were to be called a subculture, it is a subculture that every elementary and middle school girl in Japan is part of. So Yeah, I don't know.
So perhaps it is like more of a culture now then.
At this point.
Subculture is more like underground sort of stuff. And that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Like how much it has evolved since, and it being, I would say, pretty new. I know 2010s is like, 10 years ago, but it's still pretty brand new. Like since other, like if you would compare like Decora, for example, Decora's from the 90s, but with this, like it's this whole big thing now, which is very cool.
The sort of mainstreamness of it is very new, especially. I think when Rina Hamu said it, it was a subculture then. Now it's everything. Now it's everywhere.
Probably helped with like the boom of like Sanrio as well.
Oh, Sanrio's been doing so much Yumekawa stuff.
Exactly. I mean, it's becoming a lot more popular in the West as well. I mean, you get all types of characters now, not just Hello Kitty. I would say Little Twin Stars is probably the perfect example.
Little Twin Stars. So I before this interview, just to do a little bit of research to make sure that that I wasn't going to be talking nonsense today, I googled in Japanese what is Yumekawa, and the first definition I got was Little Twin Stars.
Oh wow!
Like that, literally, if you take the aesthetic of Little Twin Stars, that is Yumekawa. So there's another full circle inside our Venn diagram. Little twin stars.
Little twin stars.
In the middle of the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Going back to what Jess, you were talking about, how it is different from Fairy Kei, even though they are similar, but they're not the same. You know, how would you differentiate between a Yume Kawaii outfit and other pastel styles like Fairy Kei or Sweet Lolita?
It's kind of a difficult question to answer because obviously Fairy Kei and Sweet Lolita, in a sense, can be classed as Yumekawa. So I would say maybe motifs. There is a lot of dreamy motifs that are used in Yumekawa. Like you've got things like stars, sky.
I will have to show you guys what I have in front of me in a second because there are the visuals right here.
Yeah, you've got like stickers and books, haven't you? That's
let me go ahead and change my screen over so you guys can see what's in front of me. Hello. Yay. So what I have in front of me is just a few things I gathered from my room. These are all things that I bought here in Japan, but these are specifically things that have the word Yumekawa on them just to really prove that this is mainstream. I've got stickers here that were from one of the 100 yen shops. I don't think it was Daiso. I think it might have been Kandu. I have got a notebook here that just straight up says Yume Kawaii. This is just a textbook. And unicorns is like the number one thing. Unicorns Definitely. Are all over everything, Yumekawa, but we've got stars, we've got cakes, teddy bears and plushies is a common one, moons. We have got a little bunny cupcake there, which is a good example of, like, in real life, this would be Insta-buyer food. I have got this, which is a Pokemon manga that was published in a children's serialization, and the little advertisement strip on here straight up says Yumekawa sugiru, which is gosh, how would you translate that? It's extremely Yumekawa. Is what that says there. And yeah, these all say Yumekawa at the top here. And so again, we've got like marshmallows, we've got bunny rabbits. This one's stationery. We've even got some sort of space theme stuff here. And I've got this as well, which is Yume Kawaii at the top here. This one is actually the oldest of all of these things, and this is resin crafts for making Yumekawa. So if you look at these things, the motifs you sort of get are definitely unicorns, stars, the colors mostly. It's the soft, fluffy things in this color scheme that is very important. If you go outside of this color scheme, it starts becoming other things, I would say, than Yumekawa.
Yeah, even from the art style of Pikachu, like you can see how soft and like it's like if Pikachu and cotton candy combined, that is what I would say it would
It's
look
very
like.
cute.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be a Sylveon. Oh, here we go. So is it Galarian?
Perfect.
The Galarian Ponyta was very Yumekawa. I don't think it was an accident that came out at the time that it did. And then Sylveon is also another Pokemon that's considered very Yumekawa.
Yeah,
most of the fairy
like
Pokemon, to be honest.
Soft pastel colors. Yeah, fairy Pokemon very popular in Yumekawa. I was saying artwork as well, and maybe even outfit photos that were posted. You use like these dreamy filters, like pinky, purpley blue kind of filters, almost have like a dreamy haze on them in a way. I would say that's very Yumekawa.
Stickers too, as in digital stickers on photos by artists like Manamoko and stuff like this. There's lots of sticker sets you can get for photo editors that are all this kind of theme.
So it is kind of hard to differentiate Fairy Kei and Sweet Lolita because they all just intertwine in a way. But they do have their slight differences.
I can
look up the style you would want to wear. Like Fairy Kei, you look up Fairy Kei's guidelines. You've made videos with Tabby and Hannah about Fairy Kei, so you've got all their guidelines there. Sweet Lolita as well, petticoat, dresses, all that kind of stuff. They have their own guidelines. Yumekawa is more of a feeling,
Yeah.
You add it to enhance an outfit more than
to do
specifically create it.
Venn diagram. If this is the Venn diagram of Yumekawa and Fairy Kei is like fully inside there, Sweet Lolita is probably like intersecting. Because I think if you've got a print like Misty Skies or something like that, where it's got all the clouds and the stars, definitely Yumekawa. But some of the prints don't really have any of the motifs or the colors. Like so some of the Sweet Lolita, trying to think of an example off of my head. I guess like Cat's Tea Party, for example. It's like it could be described as Yumekawa, but it doesn't have that strong on its own. It doesn't have that strong like these motifs and these colors. It's cute, but it doesn't evoke the dreamscape. I think that's the real thing is like this right here. This is the dreamscape. Clouds, unicorns jumping between the clouds, moon, stars. That's the dreamscape. So does it evoke that? If so, probably dreamy cute. If not, probably cute.
Yeah, I mean, like just looking at what I see in front of me, like I can already feel that feeling, the very like softness and the dreaminess. So I definitely understand. We kind of know, the guidelines for Fairy Kei and Sweet Lolita, but since Yumekawa is such a very like feeling, a very vague, broad thing. So if you were to put like a Yumekawa outfit together, how would you, what are sort of like the key elements? Like if you see an outfit and you're like, oh yeah, that's like a Yumekawa outfit. Like, could you wear like pastel jeans or just like, what kind of clothing pieces, accessories, the makeup, the color scheme, etc. Like yes. You know what I mean?
I'd probably talk more on like the Western side of things because I'd say there's a bit of difference between how us in like the UK, the US would wear it compared to Japan. I would say definitely clothing with dreamy motifs on it. One comes to mind as like Moccasas Banana. It has like a unicorn on the print. It's really sweet. I would recommend something like that. I'd say sheer fashion, like cute little lacy items that you'd layer on top would be very popular. Collars, like Peter Pan collars, because that's very similar to like magical girls and evoke like this cute feeling in an outfit. Accessories, I would say very limited compared to like Fairy Kei. I would say Fairy Kei you'd wear a lot more like bracelets and accessories. I'd say Yumekawa you kind of dot them in, you know, just not too over the top, because you start going into like Fairy Kei and Fairy Decora, for example. Makeup, I would say, again, like pastel colours, a lot softer. I wouldn't say necessarily my makeup today is Yumekawa, because it's quite dark around the edges, but that's more of my personal style of Yumekawa. I would say mixing what you like as well. There's such a almost like pressure to appear as like the perfect example of Yumekawa. You've also got to be yourself as well, you know?
Yeah, I think that pressure that you mentioned is a really key point. I think in the West, a lot of people feel a lot of pressure to make sure that they're doing J fashion styles correctly, that they're setting a good example and they're not accidentally appropriating or anything like that. With Yumekawa, with it being pretty much just an aesthetic, I think that you can go pretty loose on it. As I sort of mentioned earlier, very popular with elementary and middle school students here. They will do it in a very casual way. So when you mentioned earlier, Cyber, pastel jeans, yeah, totally. You can go full casual on this. So some pastel jeans, maybe a pastel jacket or hoodie or something like that. T-shirt with a big unicorn picture on the front of it. Or if you could get like a unicorn bag, that would be excellent. Just dropping in a couple of the Yumekawa motifs here or there. Definitely try and stick to the pastel color scheme. And you can't really go wrong, to be honest. If you do Fairy Kei, you're 100% doing Yumekawa. Easy. As I sort of mentioned before, if you were doing Sweet Lolita, I think you'd need to be a little bit more conscious of what are Yumekawa like motifs, so that you're not straying more towards like a classical Sweet Lolita sort of look that doesn't really have any of the dreamy elements in it. The Lika-chan doll line here in Japan, which is like Japanese Barbie kind of thing. They've made some Yumekawa Lika-chan dolls. Those are pretty much like a rainbow tulle skirt, a unicorn t-shirt, a rainbow bag, a unicorn bag, that kind of thing. It's very easy to do this casual. Like you don't have to go over the top. But at the same time, I would say that sort of Decora Fairy Kei look would also be able to be Yumekawa. So you can pretty much go as hard or as casual as you like with it. Or even, to be honest, if you don't want to go all out, like maybe school or work, you can just have a couple of Yumekawa accessories on your bag or something like that. Since it is so
like
much of a
stationery.
Yeah, absolutely stationary. Of course, that's a huge thing. You could just have a couple of things in your day-to-day life that just shouts out like, I really like Yumekawa. Actually, there's a key element I would like to mention that I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about definitions. Kawaii. I'm not going to get into my whole spiel about how kawaii doesn't actually mean cute. If anybody is interested in that, though, I would recommend Googling exactly that. Kawaii doesn't mean cute. And you'll find out that it's a much, much broader word than that. It's more of an expression of sort of love towards things that make you go, And with that in mind, Yumekawa is kind of an expression too. So when people see something that fills them with this joy of dreamy cuteness, then people will look at it and go like, Yumekawa, as if it's like an adjective. And so that's why I say, like, I think you can go hard, full on, whole outfit, decora style, cover yourself head to toe in Yumekawa. You can also go very casual with it. It really is like a lifestyle thing. Just having those things in your day-to-day life that makes you say, Yumekawa.
I definitely say in the West, we feel a lot of pressure to put words to things or describe outfits in certain ways, while as it's definitely more of a feeling in Japan. You know, they wouldn't necessarily post their pictures and tag it, for example. It's just a feeling, you know, while we would feel pressured to look at our outfit and go, is this more fairy or is this more Yumekawa?
Am I allowed to call this fairy? Will people yell at me if I call this fairy?
Definitely.
If you look at Yumekawa tag on like Instagram in Japanese, you will get a lot of not fashion. A lot of photos of food, a lot of photos of plushies, a lot of photos of stationery, very much lifestyle tag as opposed to fashion tag. So I would say to any people living in the West who are having that kind of like, oh, am I allowed to call it this? Does it qualify as this? If it makes you think dreamy and cute, go for it. Honestly, I think don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Nice. Well, talking about, styles and that sort of thing. So when you look up or Google Yume Kawaii, Yami Kawaii will pop up as well. So you see the kawaii in it, Yume and Yami. So what is the difference between the both of these things?
I mean, if you go back to a little bit what we talked about earlier with when Rina Hamu used the term Yumekawa, in part of her explanation, she said it was fantasy and a little bit of darkness. That was the roots of Yumekawa. As time goes on, I would say that those have definitely split up. I would say Yami Kawaii has definitely evolved from Yume and now has its own set of guidelines with the fact color scheme, motifs. They're not the same as Yumekawa anymore.
So wait, did they both start out together, Yume Kawaii and Yami Kawaii together, as a sort of pair thing?
They came out around the same time. Sort of at the same time that Rina Hamu was pushing, well, I don't know if pushing is the right word for it, but talking about her vision of Yumekawa. Izaki Bisco started talking about his vision of Yamikawa. It was hard to distinguish them originally. They were both pastel with darkness or darkness with pastel. So it was like, how do you really tell the difference? But they've definitely split since then. Yeah. I think the biggest difference here in Japan that I would say is if you go to Harajuku, you will see people wearing Yamikawa. You will not see people wearing Yumekawa specifically because I would say Yamikawa's got more of that subculture sort of definition to it. Whereas Yumekawa, as I say, it kind of is this huge umbrella that encompasses everything. So you might see people in Fairy Kei and you can describe that as Yumekawa, but you probably won't see people describing themselves that way. They'll probably want to use more specific words. At the same time, if you go into your local toy shop or stationery shop, you will see Yumekawa everywhere. You're not going to see Yamikawa because it's not really the kind of thing elementary school students are into. So in that sense, they are now almost completely different topics.
I mean, one that I would say we forgot to mention is Yumekawa Yui from Pre-Para, or is it Pre-Para?
Yes. Yeah.
She literally has Yumekawa in her name. So she was created almost for kids.
I feel like Yui Yumekawa might be the reason that Yumekawa took off so much in the mainstream, because at that was really, really close to the time that Rina Hamu was talking about it. So I don't know how the director and the producers of Pre-Para, they knew. They were like, oh, we've got to get on this. And they absolutely were. And I can send you some pictures of not just Yui Yumehama. Sorry. Yui, you help my mouth. Yui Yumekawa, there we go.
Yeah.
But also Aikatsu had a character called Kirara who had a very Yumekawa aesthetic. They didn't use the word Yumekawa. Not many mainstream things were using the word at that point. But I mean, if you see it on screen right now, it's undeniably Yumekawa. It's got clouds, it's got stars, it's got all of the things. And then in the more recent series from the Pretty franchise, Pre-Magi or Pre-Magi, I don't know if it's Magi or Maggie, they also have a character in that's pretty Yumekawa, basically covered in sort of pastel colors and lots of plushies all over her outfit. So yeah, there's been anime. Oh, another one, Mukul Dreamy. Sanrio's Mukul Dreamy. 100% Yumekawa. Again, they don't use the word Yumekawa, but dreamy is right there in the name. And the whole aesthetic of that, if you look at anything Mukul Dreamy, is very Yumekawa. And that's why it's so popular with elementary school and middle school students, because you've got all these anime aimed at that exact age group that are doing this Yumekawa thing.
So cool. But going back to, the question of like Yume versus Yami Kawaii, we haven't really talked so much on what exactly like Yami Kawaii is exactly. Like, would it be just dark stuff, which is like the opposite of the pastel sort of thing? Like, what is Yami Kawaii exactly?
There's a big misconception here that happens a lot with English speakers, which is the Yami in Yumekawa is not darkness, actually. Obviously it's a homophone. There is a word Yami that means darkness, but the kanji with which Yumekawa is written is sickness. So when you think about it that way, you can see how it's not really opposite. It's actually kind of just something different, but it seems so poetic to think of them as opposites, since they both begin with Y, and one sounds like darkness whilst the other sounds like dream. But they're kind of not really related, besides their origin point being at a similar time with similar groups, subcultures.
Yeah, apart from the roots, definitely. So obviously we talked about Rina Hamu and her explanation of it. It would start with things like chokers, like edgy chokers. That would be Yumekawa. But then from there, I would say Yami took off in its own direction now. You can't even really relate the two together.
So Yumekawa is dreamy, well, at the beginning, dreamy with some nightmare sort of things. And Yumekawa is sickness, but sort of cute.
Yes.
Right? Okay,
yeah,
see,
exactly.
Okay.
Sickness
Yay!
but kawaii.
Okay, I get it now.
The pressure of labeling things in the West, we have to have these definite, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Explanations to these styles and these feelings. But it's just so difficult to put down a concrete answer to what these things are when, like Yumekawa, it is a feeling. You can't say you have to have this and this and this and this. It's a feeling. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, I think at the moment, Yumekawa is being propagated quite strongly by Azaki Bizko, who is trying to define it in somewhat clear terms. But for people that were already using the term before he sort of started using it in that way, I think similarly it's kind of just a feeling. Referencing another interview that you did, Cybr, with Dolly, I highly recommend everybody watch that one, because in Harajuku people don't walk around going, I am wearing Fairy Kei, how about you? Oh, this is Sweet Lolita, how about you? I am wearing Yume Kawaii. People don't actually use labels like that here. It is very, very free form. It is very personal. It's using your body as a canvas and your clothes as your medium. So yeah, those labels, they're not as strong over here as they are used in the Western J fashion community.
I suppose you could also link that with menhera as well. It's not an aesthetic compared to Yami Kawaii, which could be described as an aesthetic.
Yeah.
I think these words are just so complex in a way that it's hard for Westerners to maybe wrap their minds around, oh, is this menhera? But menhera isn't an aesthetic. It's a way of expressing mental health in Japan, isn't it?
Yeah, for anyone unfamiliar, the phrase menhera comes from how do you Japaneseization of a word mental healther, meaning a person who practices mental health. Similarly, it's kind of a lifestyle thing. It's a community of people coming together to deal with their mental health troubles, and a community in art culture and then fashion culture built up around those people expressing themselves, exactly like you said. Yeah.
So in basic terms, Yume's different, Yami's different, menhera, it's all different. Not the same. Don't think it's the same.
And speaking of menhera, if anybody wants to learn more about it and get deeper into it, I spoke to Puvi and Addie about it in a previous J Fashion Mythbusters video. So yeah, y'all can check that out.
Lots of good resource on this channel. Subscribe and like the video. Boo, 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 boo. Smash that like button. Ring the bell.
Oh god. So we talked about the misconception about differentiating like Yumekawa and Menhera, but regarding Yumekawa exactly, are there any misconceptions or misinformation about Yumekawa that you would like to dispel?
The main misconception is that Yumekawa is not just a fashion style. Apart from that, I wouldn't say there's many issues.
Yeah,
Would you, Hoshi?
I feel the same way. The biggest misconception about Yumekawa is when people first hear it, they think, oh, it's another fashion style label. And it is so much more encompassing, so much more life swallowing than that. You can have Yumekawa in any aspect of your life, not just fashion.
So we were talking about unicorns. You showed that picture. Well, not the picture, the notebook with the unicorn on it. And it brought me back to when unicorns were really popular. Well, in America, I don't know if it's similar in Europe, but there was a time period, a couple years back, where unicorns were just everywhere. But I feel like the vibe was different.
Slapped on everything, wasn't it?
Yeah, like unicorn cakes and unicorn everything. When you see that the unicorn vibe in the West comparing to this Yumekawa vibe, like, does it feel different? This is it's hard to explain this.
I think it feels different in that the West has not yet figured out how to do kawaii in the way that Japan does it. And there's a lot of imitations. That whole unicorn movement, that was still going when I still lived in the UK. I don't know if it's died out yet, Jess. You'll be able to tell me.
I said there's little hints here and there, but definitely not as bad as it once was. Because most of
those unicorn items, I think they would have definitely fitted with Yumekawa, but I'm gonna go full weeb here. I'm doing it. I'm going full weeb.
Go for it.
Japan just does it better. That unicorn thing in the West, it didn't go much further than unicorns, and some of the stuff was trying too hard to be cute and missing the mark.
Like when I look at, like, for example, the Sanrio releases here compared to in Japan, it's so different. Like Hot Topic came out with some Sanrio stuff, and it's like it just
invoke the same vibe.
Yeah. Like, I think there was a TikTok that I saw. They were like comparing Rilakuma, I think. If I think about it, maybe merchandise sold at like Disneyland, for example. I don't know. It's just like
they play it very safe in Western places, I would say. Like, we've just started getting hints of like kawaii, but like Hoshi said, I don't think Western market has truly figured out what kawaii means. There's certain like art styles, for instance. You can compare like a mature like actual drawing of a unicorn, a cartoon unicorn, and then like
just make the eyes big. It's kawaii, right?
Yeah. There's like very different styles of it.
When you mentioned Disney, and of course Japan has 2 Disney theme parks, Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Sea, and Disney stores here as well. And they do releases just for the Japanese market. And they have done some Yumekawa kind of releases as well, because they know their market here and they know what people like here.
With obviously Yumekawa being a lot more mainstream, like you said, with elementary and middle school, as you said. But that is definitely not a thing here in the Western. I mean, I can only speak for the UK, but it's kawaii and cuteness isn't like ingrained in kids, You grow up with cartoons, maybe some anime on the side, but it's not cute, It's very safe. Have things like God, what is even popular nowadays? I was going to say Naruto. That's probably not even popular nowadays.
Oh, it's Demon Slayer and Boku no Hero Academia.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Obviously, not Yumekawa at all. It's not. It's just difference to how we grow up. You know, in Japan, elementary and middle schoolers will be surrounded by Yumekawa. It's just different.
Growing up in the UK, I felt like people, both those identifying masculine and feminine, there's like this fear of femininity stuff. Like unicorns, rainbows, pastels. No, that's girly, and we associate that with weakness. And so nobody, well, not nobody, but it's a lot less mainstream. And certainly if you're an adult, it's kind of like, if you walk around in the UK as an adult with a unicorn bag, you're gonna get yelled at by random people. It's weird. That's a big difference in Japan as well. Is I think quite a lot of the time, one of the things that fuels the sort of indoctrination into kawaii things, especially these days, is actually the mothers. So when they become mothers, they will buy their daughters just head to toe like Yumekawa fashion. It's sort of a living vicariously kind of thing. I see whenever I go to Tokyo Disneyland, especially if you go on a weekday, so many moms with toddlers and elementary schoolers just dressed up in gorgeous outfits, and a lot of Yumekawa outfits, and a lot of the brands, especially like Mezzo Piano, do Yumekawa style now, and their stuff is, you're looking like $100 for a jacket for a kid that's going to grow out of it in a year. But these moms are indulging. They are buying all this stuff because their excuse is that they have a child.
Well, speaking of mezzo piano, like what are some other brands that, like, let's say somebody wants to look up something secondhand on like Mercari Japan, for example, or other sites and stuff. What are some places and or brands that people can find clothing and accessories to wear for a Yumekawa outfit?
My answer is Nile Patch. Easy Nile Patch. To be honest, you're going to have trouble if you do look for mezzo piano stuff, because I think their size only goes up to like 150 centimeters, very rarely 160 centimeters. And that is under the assumption that you have a very flat chest, because it is, of course, for children. So it won't fit a lot of adults. But Nile Patch is for adults. A lot of their stuff is free size as well. Plus size, Weigo and WC sometimes have stuff that would be Yumekawa. And I think they do different sizes.
Weigo was definitely a lot more Yumekawa in the beginning, like 2015. I mean, they did those really cute bunny backpacks, you know, massive bunny plushies on your back. Oh, they were so popular around that time. I wouldn't say, well, you probably know more, Hoshi, about what they stock nowadays, but I wouldn't say they're a lot focused on
it.
Yumekawa.
Has moved on. It has moved on a little bit.
You can probably find it more on secondhand, like Mercari, if you search for Yumekawa in Weigo sections and WC sections. But a lot of Fairy Kei brands also have a lot of Yumekawa themes and motifs. Like you've got Milk Clim, you've got Listen Flavor, maybe even ACDC Rag. I know they recently came out with some like really cute pastel sporty stuff, which could also work. I also really want to talk about like vintage and DIY and making your own kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So good. There's this one that's really popular in the Fairy Kei community at the moment called Gunifuni. And they remake a lot of bags and clothing with like teddy bears and lace and ribbons, and that's all really cute. I think it's Uramo 88.
Oh, Uramo.
Uramo. She does some really cute stuff as well, but definitely an emphasis on indie and making your own stuff can be really popular in Yumekawa. You can suit it to whatever you like.
Yeah. And because the Western Fairy Kei community is so supported by like indie designers, and basically all of that stuff is going to work for Yumekawa. So you've already got like a huge resource there. Taobao is the other one. Fairy Kei definitely reached China, and there's a lot of Taobao brands doing that kind of thing. The one I'm most familiar with, because they actually have a Japan-based branch, is Two Alice, and they've done a lot of Yumekawa stuff as well.
Yeah, you can definitely look at Fairy Kei brands. Just look at your motifs as well. So you've got angels, clouds, skies, unicorns, a dreamy feeling. If it falls under that, it would probably fall under Yumekawa as well.
Or you just cheat like me and you just dress head to toe in Nile perch and don't worry about it.
Perfect.
If somebody wants to try, well, I have it in here as style, but I should change that to, like, you know, getting into this aesthetic, this culture. How should they start, and do you have any advice for them?
I would say look at your hobbies and maybe include Yumekawa into that. I really like bullet journaling, and there is so much Yumekawa stuff with stationery, stickers. There's cute artists out there like Domi, I believe is what they're called. I think they're Korean, but they have these really cute stickers as well. You can add Yumekawa to all your previous hobbies and all your previous interests. Just make it that little bit cuter.
Yeah, I would say maybe go on Instagram and put in the Yumekawa hashtag in Japanese and have a look at what's there, get an idea. Even Google image search as well, Yumekawa in Japanese, and you'll immediately understand. I feel like the moment that you are face to face with an image collage of pastel clouds and rainbows and unicorns, you immediately understand, like, okay, this is what it is. And if that appeals to you, then just start incorporating it into your life, however way that you want to, whether it's arts and crafts, whether it's getting into Fairy Kei fashion. If you want to start watching some anime like Mukul Dreamy, or which was the name of the pre-para series that had Yui Yumekawa? It was Idle Time Puripara, I believe. And yeah, check out that character. Listen to Kawaii Future Bass. I feel like that is
just about to say
genre.
Kawaii Future Bass is perfect.
Do some
like
baking.
Snail's House, Yunami.
Baking as well. Like make a Yumekawa dessert. You know, it is an aesthetic, so you can put it into anywhere, and it'll take a while. I think it's been easier for me here, I think, to build up a collection and completely surround myself with this aesthetic. But when you're in the West and you don't have as much access to this stuff because it's not mainstream, it takes time to build up these collections, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Just keep your eyes open for things that fit. And sometimes you will find things like in your local mall, in your local high street, you'll spot a unicorn thing and you'll be like, oh, that's it. That's the thing. That'll fit nicely. Yeah. Exactly. Anything that makes you go, Yumekawa, grab it and put it in your space.
You know, since it's not so much of a thing here, because I have one of the questions is there a community for people to find others who are into Yumekawa as well? Like, are there communities? Well, actually, no. I feel like that's kind of, because you said that it's mostly like elementary school kids and middle school kids who are into it and stuff.
Yeah, that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any particular like communities. It would be more like jumping into one of the communities that fits within the Yumekawa umbrella. So if you're interested in the fashion side of it, get into the Fairy Kei community. If you really like Nile Patch's aesthetic, for example, then connect with other people that are fans of Nile Patch. It's probably going to be like smaller communities centered around specific things that are Yumekawa. To my knowledge, there isn't a Yumekawa community as a larger thing.
I mean, I can only speak for the UK, but there is quite a large Fairy Kei community in the UK. I mean, we've held in real life meets and online meets, sorry. You have Yumekawa aspects in Fairy Kei community as well. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's like a specific Yumekawa community here in the UK. More like branching off of Fairy Kei community and other kawaii communities.
I feel like if you're in like the Fairy Kei community in the UK, for example, it's going to be very easy to be like, oh, what kind of like Yumekawa things do you like outside of wearing Fairy Kei fashion? You'll probably find that quite a few people have like fairly large plushie collections or have painted all of their shelves pastel rainbow colors or that kind of thing. And so I think you'll find that a lot of people in those communities are, I guess, what you might describe as like a Yumekawa lifestyler. So just ask around and look for people using the tag or just generally embracing things that you think, because maybe they haven't heard of it. That's the other thing is I think maybe not as many people have heard of Yumekawa as they have, say, Fairy Kei. So they might not be using the word Yumekawa because they're not even aware that it's a word that can apply to all of these things. And maybe if people start using the tag more and using the word more, it will help people find each other, find other people that like this aesthetic. And I don't know, maybe a community will be born from this moment right now.
Yes.
You watching this video right now, you could be the one. You. Tell your local Fairy Kei community about Yumekawa today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, for sure. I really do hope that Yumekawa does get bigger here and just everywhere in general, and that people get into it, get comfortable with it, because it's just so cute. And like, I'm personally not too much into pastels. I'm more of a neon kind of gal, but just like looking at it, it fills my heart with so much warmth. And yeah, it would be nice if the world was surrounded with more pastel colors and such. So yes, I support the Yumekawification of the world.
It is our plan. Yes.
Oh, but oh my gosh, this was such a great time experience. I really, really appreciate the both of you for your knowledge and again for your time, and just yeah, I had. I'm so happy.
Thank you. It's so nice to be invited to get to talk about something I'm excited about like this.
Yes. Before we go, do the both of you have any last words or things that you would like to promote?
Who's going first? Hoshi, go first.
Oh, okay. I do keep making Jess go first. So I am, as you can see, a VTuber. As I mentioned earlier, I do art streams where I draw Yumekawa sort of aesthetic things. We also play comfy video games. My community is strictly family friendly. I pride my channel as being a LGBTQIA safe space as well as a mental health safe space. I mentioned before I used to be part of the Menhero community, and I have definitely brought some of that with me into what I currently do. For me personally, I consider Yumekawa to be an evolution for me from my Menhero roots, where I got therapy, things got a lot more hopeful, a lot brighter, and my desire changed from the vent art that comforted me and made me feel less alone to wanting to make art that made me feel happy and allowed me to escape. The world is rough sometimes and you just want to go to a dream world where everything is fine. And basically that's what my streams are. I try to make them be a happy little dream world where it's safe and it's comfy and it's healing, and you can hang out with my little bear friend here. Give him a wave. Yay. There you go, good boy. His name is The Bear, by the way.
Hello.
And come hang out with me. Twitch.tv/Hoshi. That's it, just Hoshi. Or Hoshi Yumekawa on Twitter. I stream about 4 days a week at 4 p.m. PST, Pacific time. So that's where you can find me. I'd love it if you come along. Let me know that you came from this video and I will squeal at you.
Hoshi's such a hard worker, bless you.
Thank you.
I've kind of been on a hiatus for a little while due to a lot of mental health issues, but I'm slowly trying to make my way back to Instagram. My username is Yume Vampire on there. I may be a bit slow with posting, but I promise I'm making my way back. slowly but surely. I just want to share cute fashion and maybe even some bullet journal pages in the future. We'll see.
Ooh.
Yeah, no pressure. I mean, social media is all about just like having fun and, for some people it can be different, but I think for a lot of us, it's just a way for us to like express ourselves and find other people who like the same things that we do. So I feel you.
I just wanted to grab that point that Cybr just said there about social media being a place where we can find each other. Algorithms are not good for one's mental health. But use the hashtags. Use the hashtags like Yumekawa so that you can connect with other people that like what you like. That is exactly what the hashtags should be for. So please use them. I'll be looking out. I'll be looking out for all of you in the hashtags.
Very similar to what Hoshi said. There is such a pressure to post and engage with social media. So for newbies, please don't pressure yourself so much to look and appear perfect. Your social media is your place. Have fun with it and post whatever you want to post, Don't feel overly pressured or compare yourself to others that may be super successful. You've got to make sure you're looking after yourself first. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you probably don't even have to, like, if you get into Yume Kawaii, you don't even have to post it. It's like you're doing it for yourself. So yeah.
So we would love to see your journey.
Yes.
We will follow your career with great interest.
Yay.
Thank you for having us, Cybr Girl.
No, thank you both again so much. I love you both. Heart. Sending.
Oh no, I can't do hot hands.
Oh no. I'll imagine it in my head that you're doing it.
He can do this though.
Yay! Thank you so much again to my wonderful guests Hoshi and Jess. You can check them out at their links linked down below. I hope that this was helpful for anyone brand new to Yume Kawaii or just wanting to learn more about it. I'd love to know if you are interested in getting into this aesthetic too, and if you would like for me to cover any other styles, please let me know down in the comments. But thank you so much for watching all the way through, and thank you to my lovely patrons! I'll see y'all in the next video, so take care and bye-bye!